All right, guys, we're going to get started shortly on the show. I Love CVille Show, Thursday edition, underway here in a matter of moments. We are live from historic downtown Charlottesville. It's historic downtown Charlottesville, right, Judah?
As opposed to what?
I mean, is that the brand? Is the brand of Charlottesville? Is it historic downtown Charlottesville?
I think so.
I mean, is historic part of the moniker?
Yeah.
I think historic is part of the moniker, right?
Yeah, I think I've seen signs around town that say historic downtown Charlottesville.
I mean, is it historic the UVA corner?
What? Say that again? Do they
Is
call
it
it that?
historic the UVA corner, or is it historic downtown Charlottesville? What is more historic, UVA corner or downtown Charlottesville? Downtown Charlottesville, and maybe we lead the show with this. This literally just came to me on the fly. Downtown Charlottesville was re-bricked.
Does one have to be more historic than the other?
I'm just asking, what's more historic, the corner or downtown Charlottesville? We'll start the program with that. Give the show a like and a share. Viewers and listeners, what is more historic, the downtown mall or the UVA corner? City of Charlottesville, what is more historic, the downtown mall or the UVA corner in the city of Charlottesville? Judah Wickower, I am ready to rock and roll.
Quiet on the set.
Guys, welcome to the I Love CVille Show. My name is Jerry Miller. Thank you kindly for joining us. It's a Thursday afternoon, and we have a Charlottesville, Central Virginia, Albemarle County, Commonwealth, country, and worldwide audience here on the I Love CVille Network. Judah Wickower, who you will see in a matter of moments, is our director. He is a part of the program as well. Today's show has a lot we will cover. As Brennan Armstrong, the UVA quarterback, now has a fantastic NIL deal with the local McDonald's franchise. We will talk about Brennan Armstrong and this NIL deal. A handful of viewers and listeners sent this to me. I'd like to highlight Jamie Turner, repping the PEP in Gordonsville and in Culpeper, for sending this to me as one of the viewers and listeners. I want to also cover on today's program a topic that Judah and I often discuss in the studio. And Judah posed this question prior to the show starting. And he said, is it cheaper? No. Is it better for an individual or a family's bottom line to not work and earn income at a job, or to stay home, especially if it's a child care provider, a parent or grandparent? So basically, we are going to extrapolate the overhead associated with wear and tear on a car. Gas prices now, a national average, according to Gas Buddy, $5 a gallon for the first time in country history. $5 a gallon. National average in America, according to Gas Buddy, the highest it's ever been in American history. So you got wear and tear on a car to consider, overhead, $5 a gallon of gas, overhead. You got, if you're a child care provider, finding child care is difficult, and when you do find child care, the pay associated with child care is at an all-time high in American history.
Yeah, no doubt.
So you're getting hit three different ways if you have a long commute, and if you have kids, and if you have a vehicle that's not in the best condition. So is it better for a family's bottom line to not work than to go to work? That topic to start the show. Judah, why don't we go to the two-shot as we highlight Skooma Boutique Dispensary. The best dispensary in Charlottesville is Skooma Boutique Dispensary. It's family-owned, Judah. Husband and wife. They've come on the show many times. A location on the downtown mall, which I know you're impressed with, and one on Elliewood Avenue, Skooma Boutique Dispensary, Judah. First, how are you? And second, I'm excited to take a deep dive on the should you stay at home versus go to work from a bottom line standpoint. Good afternoon, my friend.
Good afternoon. I'm doing okay.
We've talked this topic quite a bit on the show, and you succinctly, which we've been friends for 10 years, succinctly and you do not go hand in hand. But you very succinctly said, I've been thinking about this go to work struggle and jobless claims. We talked about this earlier. Folks, jobless claims for the week ending June 4th totaled 229,000, well ahead of the 210,000 the Dow Jones estimated. The four-week moving average for continuing claims, which helps smooth out volatility in the numbers, remained around its lowest since 1970. So people are saying, hey, I'm out of work. A lot since January. The most people out of work jobless claims this week since January, 229,000. That's a hell of a lot of people right there.
No
and
doubt.
you succinctly said, hey, maybe the people are saying, look, I just want to stay home.
It's not even about wanting to stay home. It's about not being able to afford. Like, what if you were going to work to get paid to make enough money to be able to go to work? Like, that's it. All the money that you made just paid for you to be able to go to work. So, for instance, you can't afford to live in Charlottesville. So let's say you live outside of town and you drive in, and I just picked Waynesboro.
Yeah, Waynesboro is a good example.
28.5 miles.
Yeah.
I figured out
You did some math. Look at you. You're putting together a compelling argument. I'll stop talking. Please, the show is yours. I'm very impressed right now. I'm very impressed.
So I did some math at $4.50 a gallon.
Oh, that's conservative.
Well,
All right, that's fine. $4.50.
I didn't know it was up to $5.
Okay, conservative.
Last time I was at the pump, it was $4.50.
So you're saying that's a gallon and a half, probably right there.
Anyways, we're not trying to do exact.
We're going to call that a gallon and a half, right?
Today.
One way, 1.5 gallons, one way. Let's call it 1.5.
What I did is I figured my car gets roughly 25 miles to the gallon.
Okay, wow, that's efficient. Mine's 18.9 for the Ford Explorer. Why don't we call it a gallon and a half for the sake of math?
Some are going to be better, some are going to be worse.
Okay.
I already did my own math, so if you want to do
Okay,
some
now
math,
fine.
that's
I'll stop talking. Let's use your
and
math.
really, the math is immaterial.
Let's go with your math.
It's just numbers. So I've got that at roughly $205 in gas a week.
Waynesboro to the city of Charlottesville. You live in Waynesboro because it's the housing you can afford.
Yeah.
28.5 miles one way.
No. Yeah. 28.5 one way.
28.5 miles one way at $4.50 per gallon gas.
Yeah. Comes out
You're doing
depending
less than 60 miles round trip from Waynesboro to the city of Charlottesville. Remember, you're living in Waynesboro and you're working in Charlottesville because Waynesboro is what you can afford from a mortgage standpoint or from a rent standpoint, because Charlottesville and Albemarle County and Fluvanna and Louisa and Greene have all gotten so expensive. So you're dropping $2 to $2.50. I think your number's light. Let's say $2 to $2.50 a week. Let's call it $2.50 for the sake of a conversation.
Okay.
Gasoline alone
Yeah, just for gas.
is a G note, is 1,000.
Yeah.
1,000 a month. Gasoline alone is what you're saying.
Right. So add to that the cost of fixing up your car once, twice, 3 times a year. I just read something about somebody was saying there's massive potholes over by Barracks. They just blew a tire because of the poor roads in Charlottesville. I don't know how many of you have gone and bought tires recently, but you can probably get.
They're not cheap.
Like the cheap ones are what, maybe $50, $60.
Well, those are often used.
Yeah.
That's not a new tire. If you want a good new tire,
And
you're
the thing
dropping
is-
two bills.
Yeah. And you get what you pay for. You can buy a cheap tire, but you're just going to have to buy new ones in a year and a half, 2 years. Whereas if you buy more expensive ones, they last longer.
Okay, so let's say for the sake of a talk show, and to be succinct, it's $1,000 a month in fuel and petrol. That's $12,000 a year. Let's write these numbers down. You're paying $1,000 a month to commute from Waynesboro to the city of Charlottesville, round trip Monday to Friday, or 5 days a week, or however many shifts you work. You're living in Waynesboro because all you can afford is the mortgage and the rent in Waynesboro, which is a hell of a lot of freaking people. Waynesboro, one of the few last bastions of affordability housing-wise. You're $12,000 a year. Let's say you got 2 mechanic visits a year. 2. Very possible. One of them is going to be a routine visit, and the other one is going to be a medium visit. None of them are going to be catastrophic. I'm going to say altogether, conservatively, it's $1,000 for you to drive that kind of mileage and mechanics fees. We're at $13K.
Yeah.
So write down $13,000.
Well,
and that's off the top, Judah. That's off the top. That's off the top, right? Because if someone who's working for UVA, you know what? Majority of people that work for UVA are clocking about $40,000. $40,000 a year. Majority of people working at UVA.
Yeah.
And if you're commuting from Waynesboro to your UVA job at $40K a year, and you're just $13,000 right off the top, right?
Yeah.
UVA, you may earn, you're saying you're making $40K a year, but you got taxes, you got a lot of, that's not what you're taking home every 2 weeks.
Right.
But that $13,000 is off the top of the 40. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then let's add the non-educational, the non-school months, the non-school days. So when childcare is not available through being in school.
Let's say you've got a kid that's not even in school yet.
Right.
I'm reading here that it costs, on average, about $14,000 a year for infant care in Virginia. And imagine if you have 2 kids. So that's another $14,000.
Well, I can tell you, and I'm not going to say where, but our little guy is in pre-K 3, and pre-K 3, which is 8:40 a.m., 8:40 to 12 p.m. high noon, is essentially $500 a month. And that's not even the afternoon hours.
Yeah.
That's pickup at noon. And then if you want extended care, there's an additional fee for that. So
Sure.
child care, 8 to 5:30 or whenever pickup time is, that's going to run you probably $1,000 a kid, if not more.
Yeah.
So if child care is $1,000 a kid, and you're not going to need the child care, we're going to be conservative when doing this business, when building this business model. You're not going to need the child care when school is in. We're going to call this a school-aged child, okay? A child that's in the public school system. If the child is in the public school system, you're going to need the child care for June, July, August, a portion of December, and a portion of May. So we'll call it 4 months a year. So we'll call that $4,000. 4 months. Childcare, 1 kid. We're not even going to call it a multiple kid scenario. A multiple kid, the margin's even worse.
Yeah.
Multiple kid. We'll call it 1 kid. That's 4 G's for 1 kid. Plus, what's the number you have over there? 13?
Yep, 13.
So you're at $17,000.
Yeah.
Fuel, $1,000 a month. Childcare for 4 months a year at $1,000 a month is $4K, plus the extra $1,000 in mechanic fees.
Yeah. Give or take, depending on what kind of car you got, depending on how new or old it is.
So you just put a very compelling argument together. We put a very compelling argument together why if you're clocking 40, heck, even 50K at the university, and you're commuting from Waynesboro, why you would give significant and serious thought to not working at that rate and instead staying home,
Yeah.
being with your kid before and after school, doing more around the house to improve the house and the dwelling,
Yep.
and to improve potentially quality of life from a not working scenario. That's a very realistic model right there.
Yeah. I mean, you're saving at least $17,000 a year. The problem.
How many are actually doing that? And what is the long-term damage of doing that? If the long-term damage of doing that is displacement, permanent displacement from the job market for folks who are doing things like that, because the gap in the resume is going to be so significant, the future employer will be like, what the hell happened here? Or they will age out of the job market, right? Aging out of the job market because
be.
they've gotten older while sitting on the sidelines.
Possibly.
Certainly, it's going to do nothing to narrow the wealth gap.
Right.
The wealth gap will worsen for that particular household or individual who chooses that path.
And this particular household that we're talking about is making enough that they could actually afford that on, if this was one person's
Salary. If it was a two-income family and one income chose to stay on the sidelines.
Yeah.
Because that income was between 40 and 50K.
But if they decided to continue working, they could afford the gas and the upkeep the child care. But not everybody is making $40,000 a year.
Right.
It's particularly in the the F&B industry and in other hard
housekeeping. I mean, there's plenty of people that at the university are not clocking 40K.
Yeah.
Hundreds of people at UVA not clocking 40K.
Right. So the closer you get to,
I would say maybe even close to 1,000 not clocking 40K.
Right. The point being, the closer you get to those numbers being the same, the amount that you make is the same as what you have to pay for.
You'll choose to stay home.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
You might lose $1,000 a year. You might lose a little bit of money, and here's the troubling part for me is that credit card debt is massively spiking. As we talked about before the show, people paid off a lot of debt during the pandemic, which is a good thing. But now that the price of everything is rising, credit card debt is going up as well. So imagine that family who says, look, we're going to lose a little bit of money, but it's going to keep me sane to stay home with the kids. We don't have to worry about driving them, getting them to
a stranger watching them.
Yeah. Or taking them to a school. We all know the tragedies going on in schools today.
Yep.
And
that causes stress even at my house.
Yeah.
My wife thinks and talks about that. We had a conversation about that last night. She said, I'm hearing every single week about one of these damn things, one of these damn shootings.
Yeah.
And that really hits close to home when you have Baby Bear that is out of your den.
Yeah.
In one of those settings.
You got to hope that wherever you're taking them, they...
Right. And obviously common sense or just logical reasoning would be like, Baby Bear is safer with me at the house watching, as opposed to what we're seeing in the news.
Yeah.
And to Judah Wickower's point, and he's doing a hell of a job today, Judah Wickower, consumers paid off a record $83 billion with a B in credit card debt during the pandemic. But the recent spike in prices for gas, groceries, and housing, among other necessities, is causing most of them to lean on their credit cards once again. The Federal Reserve's monthly credit report found that revolving credit, which mostly includes credit card balances, jumped nearly 20% in April from the previous month to over $1 trillion, breaking the pre-pandemic record of $1.1 trillion. So we're at an all-time high in the country for credit card debt.
Yep. You're looking at the same article I am.
We're at an all-time high for the country for credit card debt right now. We're at an all-time high for the country for gasoline, $5 nationally, according to Gas Buddy, on average across the country, right now.
If you look at shelves, there's,
You've mentioned that, grocery store shelves, you say are pretty bare.
Yeah. We were just talking with Keith Smith the other day about the fact that, half the bread aisle is empty.
So you just made a very compelling argument of, and the example was an individual or a family, and someone in that family, mom or dad, mom and mom, dad and dad, whatever individual.
When does it get too expensive to work?
I mean, I think probably the threshold's $50K.
And
I mean, because what's the take off the rip with gas, childcare, and mechanic? What's that number, 17 we said?
Yeah, it's like 17,000.
Okay, so I think off the rip, the threshold might be $50K. Now, it's very different if it's a one-income family versus a two-income family. A two-income family can make that decision much more than a one-income. One-income probably can't do it. Two-income, you just put a very compelling argument why they could do it. The unfortunate aspect
But do they want to?
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I want to cover. If this family, if the mom or dad or whoever it is chooses to stay home instead of working because they're like, hell, I make 40, 45K, and it's not worth me to, after I pay childcare, fuel, wear and tear in the vehicle, and the opportunity cost of my time, it's not worth me to go from Waynesboro to the city of Charlottesville to work for 45K. I'm going to stay home. That person will be left behind in the job market.
Maybe.
Definitely.
I think you
don't recover gaps like that without having to answer with employers saying, what the hell happened here? You're middle-aged and you've gone years without working.
And we're also talking about a job market where people are begging for workers.
Touche.
I don't think that gap is going to matter a whole lot.
Touche.
And,
well said.
And I don't think a person making these decisions is factoring in that kind of thinking.
Well, everyone should factor in that kind of thinking.
Should, could, and would are very different things.
I
think
get
the person making that decision is like, look, do I care if there's a gap?
Kevin Yancey, who's watching in Waynesboro right now, says that $18,000 won't get benefits, though. And the University of Virginia's got good benefits. So he is pointing out that if you're clocking 40K, you live in Waynesboro, you're commuting to the city of Charlottesville, you work at UVA, we are not highlighting or prioritizing the importance of the benefits package. That's fair.
That's definitely true. But if the other parent is working at UVA, and
they get the medical from the other parent potentially.
Yeah.
They also would be missing out on the.
And I think we're largely, a lot of what we're talking about is not people making. Again, we're not talking about people making $40,000 a year. Jerry brings that up, but I think a lot of the people that we're talking about are in the lower middle class and
below 40 a year,
probably with the arrow pointing down
on the salary. Below 40 a year is what you're saying.
Well, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because we made a big deal. Michael Payne, City of Charlottesville Council, made a big deal early in his campaign or early in his tenure on council about UVA and the living wage. Remember when UVA and the living wage was all the rage? It was $15 an hour. UVA, I'm going to get my iPhone out right now. I'm going UVA living wage. I'm pretty sure the story was $15. Yeah, it's $15 per hour is the living wage. $15 per hour. You know what that is a year?
No, not off the top of my head.
25K.
Yeah.
25K. I take that back. It's 30K because $10 an hour is 20,000. $20 an hour is 40. So 15 is 30. $15 an hour is 30,000 take home plus the bennies. The people that are
take home after tax and.
What's that?
That's take home after tax.
$30,000, and then they're going to have taxes taking out of that. And with their medical benefits, a portion of that $30,000 will be subsidized by their take-home pay. The university covers the large portion of that subsidy or of that payment each month. But the employer pays some.
Again, I feel like you're taking best-case scenarios.
No, I know, but
Not
the $40,000 a year is a nice round number for viewers and listeners to identify with. We're in 100% agreement that a very large chunk of UVA employees do not make 40K. That would be dancing in Market Street across from our studio right now if they were making 40K.
Yeah.
100%. $15 an hour was a big deal, and that's $30,000 a year. Okay, I 100% agree with you. Let's get to comments. We're going to get to comments here on the program. There's a lot of them. Travis Hackworth is watching in Danville, Virginia. He is the king of Danville. Travis Hackworth. I had a job like that before. I drove an hour each way for a job that paid $12 an hour just to be able to have health insurance to get seizure medicine.
Wow.
I only survived because of my parents back in the big recession of 2008, 2009, and 2010. He also said, y'all are getting robbed in childcare costs. We're paying $125 a week in Danville in the New River District.
Wow.
More comments coming in. Kevin Yancey. He's challenging the fuel costs. We'll do the math together, Kevin Yancey. He says, I drive a four-wheel drive Suburban from Waynesboro to Crozet every day and don't come close to $500 a month. I'm going to do the math. Let's do the math again.
Waynesboro is a lot closer to Crozet than it is to
100%.
to
100%. Waynesboro to Crozet
Charlottesville.
is way closer. Waynesboro to Crozet is like the halfway point of Waynesboro
Yeah.
to Charlottesville. Can you put in Google Maps or some kind of mileage checker, Waynesboro to UVA Hospital? Waynesboro to UVA Hospital mileage.
It's about 24.
You had it at 28.5.
That was when I put in Charlottesville to Waynesboro.
All right.
This is Waynesboro to University of Virginia.
Okay, so I'm going to call it 25. Okay, I'm going to call it 25. I'm going to say on that 25, the average vehicle out there, that's 1.5 vehicle, that's 1.5 gallons. 1.5 gallons.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to use, for the sake of math, because gas, does everybody watching and listening to the show think that gas is going to go up in price for a gallon? Can you put your hand in the air if you think gas is going to go up from here on June 9th? Is your hand in the air or no? You don't think gas is going to go up?
Where else is it going to go?
Okay, gas is going to go up. So I'm going to use $5 a gallon.
Okay.
I'm going to use $5 a gallon. That's 1.5 gallons. So 5 times 1.5.
7.5.
Yep. 7.5. Right? And that 7.5 was one way.
Yeah.
That was one way. That was not round trip. That was
Right.
one way.
So that's 15 a day.
Am I right? It's one way times 2. So $7.50 times 2 is $15 a day in Petra. 15 times 5 shifts a week. That gets you 75 bones. 75 bones times 4 weeks, 4.5 weeks a year. It's called 4.5 weeks a month. That gets you around $400 a month in fuel. That 1,000 is high. So we're going to go 500 on that gas instead of the 1,000.
Okay.
And that 500 a month on gas is going to give you 6. So that gives you a little more wiggle room on that number. 6,000 a year, 500 a month in gas, 6,000 a year. The other numbers are accurate that I threw out there.
I'm not keeping.
You're not keeping up with our numbers? I kept up with the numbers, even if
it-
you didn't keep up with the numbers.
No, I had it at 17,000 total, but I
Yeah,
wasn't
the other
keeping, like, a
numbers
running-
were 4,000 for childcare, which then takes you to 10K plus 1,000 for mechanic fees. That gives you 11,000. That's an accurate number right there for you, Kevin Yancey. Respect for holding us accountable right there. 11 G's, very conservative and realistic, off the top to commute from Waynesboro proper to UVA to work at the hospital. If you're making 30 to 40 G's a year, you're like, maybe I shouldn't be doing this job and I'll just stay home, especially if you have kids, especially if your partner's doing well. And this is what could be contributing to the vacancies that are out there everywhere in our region, in our local jurisdictions. And this also could be contributing to why credit card balances are at an all-time high in America. That came out today. Those data points out today. Credit card balances in America, all-time high for this country. Let's go to the Queen of Jack Jewett, Carol Thorpe. 25 years ago, I crunched the numbers after I gave birth to my son, Carol said. I determined it did not make sense to go back to work because I would pay 80% of what I earned to taxes, childcare, transportation, and work-related expenses. The salary and health insurance my husband earned through his work supported us, so we managed without the extras that 20% of what I would have earned would have given us. Our son got to have his mother at home his entire childhood, and I never regretted my decision for a minute. Carol Thorpe. That's a fantastic comment.
Yeah.
Fantastic comment. I'm going to respond to your comment by saying, this is fantastic. Carol Thorpe. Carol Thorpe. This is fantastic. Exclamation point, enter. Neil Williamson watching the program. Neil Williamson says this: for what it's worth, employment gaps are less important in this environment. Judah is right. That's what you were saying. No one's going to care about the wealth gap or the employment gap if they choose in this environment to stay home.
Yeah.
When I say the collateral damage, of staying home is that they will be left behind in the workforce.
Yeah. And we're seeing so many people switching careers right now that, again, I just don't think it's that important.
But we talked yesterday in the middle of this week how pivoting or transitioning or switching to new careers has never been more arduous or difficult or expensive. With inflation and all the pausing earning now.
In some cases, that is definitely true. But in other cases, like if you're switching to a similar job that you just don't know the basics of, it's a good employer can find ways to teach you. We're not talking about.
I don't buy that. I do. I don't buy that.
We're not necessarily talking about like
to a certain income point. There's a level of expertise that is required from certain jobs, and once that expertise becomes to the point where the employer is not going to be able to train you, that's when the pay starts going up because fewer people can do it.
Yeah, that's definitely true. There are some jobs where, like, I can't just walk into a mechanic's, bay and say, hey, I'd like to start fixing cars. There's definitely a high barrier of entry to a switch like that.
Erin King is the Queen of Scottsville, one of Western Albemarle High School's finest graduates. And if you need an operator in a restaurant, someone who you could give an equity stake and have her run the place for you, Erin King is the choice locally. She's dynamite. One of a few that I know that are dynamite. She says the commute from Scottsville, where she and her man live, is getting ugly.
Yeah.
I'm not sure the cheaper rent I'm paying now in Scottsville is worth it anymore.
Yeah. I got a friend who lives out there, and I drive out occasionally, and I'd hate to have to do that every day.
Kevin Yancey says he easily spends $80 a week to go from Waynesboro to Crozet. Yes, Bill McKenzie. Travis Hackworth is in Danville, watching in Danville. A lot of comments coming in as this is a very relatable topic. This is a topic from Jennifer, who's watching in Short Pump. The unfortunate nature of what you are describing is this undoubtedly impacts women in the workforce at a much greater rate.
Yeah.
It's the women in the workforce that are choosing to stay home to be with the kids because of the sexist nature of our society and the professional nature or lack thereof of women working professionally. I think that's accurate.
Yeah, definitely. And I've
you
also,
buy that? You buy that?
Oh yeah. I mean, I've heard similar, and not just women, but I think women of color even more so.
Women of color, people of color.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is that's what I'm saying. I was trying to identify what's the collateral damage of this. We saw this during the pandemic. Remember during the pandemic, during COVID, one of the many unfortunate aspects of COVID was moms were having to stay home and leave their work to help their kids with stay-at-home school.
Yeah.
The burden unfairly was falling on women and moms to help their kids. And we were crystal balling that this was going to set women back professionally from climbing the vertical ladder standpoint.
Definitely.
This is happening all over again.
And well, I think a lot of them probably never went back.
No, you're right. You're 100% right. A lot of them never went back. Scott Aaronworth is watching in Virginia Beach. Try being a criminal defense attorney and driving all over the place.
Ugh.
And gas will be over $6 by the end of summer. $6 a gallon. $6 a gallon gas.
Oh,
if it gets to $6 a gallon gas, you will undoubtedly see outer area outer area or like the suburban aspects of regions, their housing soften. Like, and I understand we're underhoused from like a rooftop standpoint. We're, what do we say? We're not saying inventory. We're lacking inventory right now. We're lacking places to live, or whatever the hell we're calling it here. But eventually people are going to be like, dude, $6 a gallon gas changes that math for the person commuting from Waynesboro completely.
Oh, yeah.
Changes it completely. It's a good talking point. Where are the people? All right, I want to get to a couple more items here before I talk to city manager in Charlottesville. Brennan Armstrong signed a NIL deal. And this is a pretty big deal. He's the quarterback of the University of Virginia. He is going to be a spokesman or pitchman for the McDonald's franchise in Charlottesville, in Central Virginia, and in the Shenandoah Valley. There's going to be a meal that features Brennan Armstrong on the menu, like a Brennan Armstrong combo meal. And the person who is arguably the most marketable athlete, who's the most marketable athlete at the University of Virginia active right now? Anyone? It's Brennan Armstrong, right? Can anyone compete with Brennan Armstrong from a marketability standpoint as an active UVA athlete? Maybe Kie Clark, right? National champion, and the likable, approachable nature, relatable nature of being a 5'7" athlete, 5'8" athlete, Kie Clark, which is very normal in stature and size to average Joes and average Bettys. Maybe Kie Clark can compare to Brennan Armstrong, but still Brennan Armstrong supersedes Kie Clark. Brennan Armstrong, this NIL deal will put his face all over the Golden Arches in the Shenandoah Valley and in Central Virginia. It also includes a charitable component with the Charlottesville Ronald McDonald House. And it allows Brennan Armstrong, one of the best quarterbacks in UVA football history, to make some money in his last year in college. He's going to make some money. So that's news. Armstrong, face of pitchman for McDonald's in Central Virginia and the Shenandoah Valley. This is a topic we didn't get to last week, 2 shows ago, that I'm going to dot the I's and cross the T's on. Chesterfield County, Virginia, there's a 320-unit apartment complex called Hunter Chase. And Hunter Chase in 2017 sold for $42 million. Late last month, that same apartment complex sold for nearly $80 million, or 2x in a 5-year period of time. The new owner is Capital Square, a Henrico-based firm that is busy buying Richmond multifamily real estate. One other item we didn't get to, and then let's go city manager talk real quick if we could. The other item we didn't get to is the UVA golfer who is playing in the U.S. Open. So Denny McCarthy, a former Virginia All-American golfer, qualified for the 2002 U.S. Open this past Monday during a qualifying event in Columbus, Ohio. He posted rounds of 69, 67, and 67 for a 36-hole total of 7 under par 136. So this dude's going to the U.S. Open in 2022, a Virginia All-American. It's his 6th appearance in a major championship. He played in the U.S. Open in 2015 and 16 and the PGA Championship in 2020, 2021, and 2022. All right, last topic of the show is the city manager. Let's go back to the 2-shot on the city manager if we could. So the news that was reported in the Daily Progress today, Ginny Bixby, was City Council extending the city manager contract with the Robert Bob Group, the consulting firm.
Through December. Through
this year. We knew that already because Lloyd Snook and Juan Diego Wade, when they came on Real Talk with Keith Smith here on the I Love CVille network, they said that not only was the Robert Bob Group consulting firm going to be extended through the end of the year, but even Lloyd Snook hinted that Michael Rogers, the consultant city manager, could be extended through budget season next year because he wanted continuity Is that the word, continuity?
Continuity.
Continuity, thank you. He wanted continuity with leadership in the budget cycle next year. So this is the question I want to close with and ask everyone that's listening and watching this program. If Seville City Council is so enamored and so smitten and so full of lust and romanticized and so doe-eyed, can I get another synonym for being romanticized or full of lust or enamored? And
I don't know. I think you covered it pretty
sweet,
well.
Getting all in their feelings. What's another one? What do you get when you see
bromance?
Bromance is not a good one.
No.
So why would City Council be bromancing with Michael Rogers? They could be enamored with Michael
Why
Rogers.
would they be lusting after him?
Because they like him. They think he's cool. All right, fine. We'll include your bromance if you want. If City Council is so bromanced with Michael Rogers and the Robert Bob Group, why doesn't City Council make a legitimate push to just hire Michael Rogers full-time? They're paying the Robert Bob Group an additional $155,000 for the final 6 months of this year. The extension through this year is costing us as taxpayers an additional $155,000.
So you're saying cut out the
Robert
Bob Group and
hire
just,
Michael Rogers, pay him $200, save some off the top, and make this guy the permanent dude.
Yeah.
Take the bromance from bromance stage and make it marriage and permanent. Why do we have to be bromancing this guy? Let's not bromance this guy. Let's love cuff him and slap a contract and a ring on him. Let's love cuff Michael Rogers. Am I missing that? Am I reading that wrong?
I don't know.
Love cuff the dude. Love cuff Michael Rogers.
If he's doing a good job, let him keep doing a good job.
Yeah, he's doing a great job. Let's love cuff him. Why do we want to keep it in this courting stage or this dating stage where it's
Does this go in the column of overpaid consultants?
Yeah, take him out of overpaid consultant and love cuff him and make him permanent. Make him full-time. You like him? Marry him. Am I missing something?
No.
What am I missing?
No, I think it's good.
Carol Thorpe, city taxpayers are paying a rate roughly 4 times as much for the consultant city manager as they would pay for the usual city manager. 4 times. She's exactly right.
Yeah.
You love this guy so much that we're going to pay him 4 times the rate. Just love cuff him and make him permanent.
Yeah.
Neil Williamson, which comes first, new zoning code or new city manager? Lloyd Snook straight up said, Neil Williamson, on Real Talk with Keith Smith, that he is not opposed to keeping Michael Rogers and the Robert Bob Group in through budget season of next year. So budget season of next year, you have to say legitimately would probably run into April or May of next year.
And the article you sent me said that they actively want to get a new police chief before
they want to hire the police chief
before they even consider who to hire for
city manager, which I think is bogus and BS. And I've said that routinely on the show. I've said this routinely on the show. Council. This is what literally is happening. Council has a consultant city manager, and the consultant city manager is hiring a consultant firm, consultancy, to find a police chief. That is so many layers of bureaucratic BS and unnecessary taxpayer dollars right there. Just marry Michael Rogers and love cuff the guy, and then say, yo, love cuff Michael Rogers, go get a police chief for us. And can anyone, I want anyone watching this program answer this question for me? Tito Durrett has been the interim police chief. Seems like an awesome dude, likable dude. I see Tito Durrett and I'm like, this guy seems like a great guy. Leader, physically imposing guy, seems to be, grew up in the department, matured in the department, became a man in the CPD. Why is Tito Durrett not considered a full-time potential police chief? He's been in the interim role since Dr. Rashal Brackney pieced out of Charlottesville.
Yeah.
Wasn't that October or November of this past year?
Something like that.
It was October or November. That means Tito Durrett, the interim police chief, has been in the interim role for 7 months at least.
Yeah.
For 7 months, he's been in the role. And dude, Ginny Bixby reports in the Daily Progress today that the permanent police chief won't even be in play until October. That means the
Right.
interim police chief will be in an interim position for
most of a year.
Almost a year.
Yeah.
Just make him the permanent one.
Yeah. If he's doing a
Make
good
him the
job.
permanent one. Unless he doesn't want it.
Yeah.
Am I missing something here? Get Michael Rogers and be like, Michael, we're going to hook you up. We'll give you a what would you have to do to incentivize Michael Rogers to be the to be the city manager in Charlottesville, Virginia? What would you offer him? There's Mayor Lloyd Snook outside the studio there, leaving his office, going to the front of the Macklin building. He got a fresh haircut. He's looking sharp. Got a blue Oxford on, button down, and a red tie, and pressed pleated khaki pants. Sharply dressed Lloyd Snook. Sharply dressed. You find that funny? Why do you find that so funny?
You're describing his dress.
What would you offer Michael Rogers to be the full-time city manager if you were city council? I'd offer him.
Depends on whether or not he's got a house around here.
Of course he does not have a house around here.
Well, then that's what I'd offer him.
Why would he have a house around here? He's been interim city manager for 6 months. He hasn't bought a house here. He was never going to be permanent city manager here. I would offer him $225,000, a city-issued vehicle, take-home city-issued vehicle, $225K a year, city-issued take-home vehicle, city-issued cell phone, city-issued laptop, medical for him and his wife and kids, if he has them, and a stipend of $25,000 or $50,000 for moving expenses, and a stipend that can be contributed or allocated to a down payment for a house. $225,000. Call it a stipend of $22,500, 10% of his salary, so an additional 10% up front is a signing bonus, a take-home car, one vehicle, a gas card, a phone, cell, a laptop, and Benny's medical for his family.
Yeah.
What?
That's a pretty damn good deal.
City manager's a bona fide position. Dude's the CEO of a $200 million operation.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, is the CEO of a $200 million company. CEO of a $200 million company making $225,000 a year, that dude's probably underpaid. $200 million company's CEO is probably clocking more than $225. That $225 may be base for most private companies, plus a piece of the back end profit or revenue. All right. Anyway, that's my pitch. Kevin Yancey says, laughing my ass off, bet he lives in Albemarle County. That's funny, and the irony is that he cannot live in Albemarle County. He has to live in the city of Charlottesville. Did you know that?
No, I didn't. It is hilarious, though.
Yeah. Carol Thorpe. Tito was in charge of the SWAT team that had so many problems and got disbanded. I wonder if council is concerned about getting some community backlash if they promote him. I get that. That's a good point, Carol. I understand that. I understand that. My response to that would be this. Tito matured in the department. Interim Police Chief Durrett matured in the department. I believe he's the first African American in Charlottesville Police Department history, Tito Durrett. He has been a stable, quiet leader who stayed in the background, the antithesis of Dr. Rachel Brackney, who lived in the limelight. Interim Chief Durrett is staying in the background. He would be a viable choice for me. Neil Williamson making a Mo Jones joke. Maurice Jones joke. Sounds like the deal in Chapel Hill. Maurice Jones got, as city manager, he got the hookup on some grad school tuition coverage and some loan forgiveness before he went to Chapel Hill. I have called it, well, I'm not going to call it what I called it in the past. I got contacted by the gentleman's camp, we will say.
Oh.
Yes. All right, that's the talk show. I thought you did a great job today, Judah Whitcomb.
Thank you.
Seriously, I sincerely mean that. Good work today. Judah Judah Wickower is becoming a more of a contributor to the program, and I think it's to the betterment of the show. So if you see Judah Wickower walking around Central Virginia, give him some props and give him a high five and talk to him about the talk show and give him some topic points or stuff to talk about, and we'll bring it into the program.
Yeah.
You like talking to the viewers and listeners. I know you do. Good job today. That's the Thursday edition of the program. Tomorrow is Friday, and on Real Talk at 10:15 a.m., Keith Smith has lined in, secured, he's booked, he's scheduled. Christopher Bremett of Bramante Homes. Christopher Bremett is a custom home builder, and he's also booked and scheduled Amanda Lamont, who's the sales coordinator for Stanley Martin Homes, who is a production builder. So on Real Talk with Keith Smith, we will have the dynamic or the dichotomy, Judah, of a production builder
I don't know if dichotomy is the right word.
What's the definition of dichotomy?
A dichotomy is like...
Look up the exact definition.
Okay. It's like two things that don't quite... they're like opposites.
Okay, dichotomy exact definition. Let's go Merriam-Webster.
Dichotomy. A division or contrast between two things that are or are represented as being opposed or entirely different.
A division into two, especially mutually exclusive or contradictory groups or entities. Something with seemingly contradictory qualities. Tomorrow's edition of Real Talk with Keith Smith will feature the dichotomy between Amanda Lamont and Christopher Bremett and Stanley Martin and Bramante Homes. That works. That works. That works. You don't think that works? You don't think that works?
Not really.
Why?
How are they a dichotomy?
They're different.
Everybody's different. That doesn't mean
one
everything...
is a custom home builder and one is a production builder.
That doesn't make everything a dichotomy.
You don't think that is a dichotomy?
Not really.
All right. I think it's a dichotomy. Tomorrow, whether it's a dichotomy or not, they're on at 10:15. Then the I Love CVille show at 12:30. Judah, say goodbye to everybody. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye, everybody.
Take care. Have a good day.